Welcome to Real Women's Stories. Life has a very strange way of just pulling the wool from under our feet, pulling that carpet away. We think it's incredible, we're on a high, everything's great, and then suddenly something happens and everything just seems to fall apart.
We went on our adult only honeymoon, I call it. And when I was sitting in the business class lounge to get on our flight, I found my lump.
And even at those moments where everything just feels like it's crumbling, how do we manage to pick ourselves up? How do we manage to get back that strength, to get that control back of our lives and start taking care of ourselves?
There were cracks here in this relationship. He's pulled away. So I took myself off to therapy again. I've done therapy a lot in my life. Took myself back to therapy, stuck myself back on antidepressants.
This is Real Women's Stories. Today's guest is an incredible woman. Her name is Vicky, and she runs a retreat in Hertfordshire, which is near where I live, called Bethnal and Beck. And, I wanted some alone time with my husband. So I was kind of scanning Instagram and having a look around. And I stumbled upon this retreat in Hertfordshire because also you can take your dogs, and I love my coops. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna send them a message, because you had to go through an Instagram message. And then I get a message back asking me to go and visit their website. And on the website, there was a little caption that said, "My story." And obviously, this is Real Women's Stories. So I was completely intrigued. I was curious. What was Vicky's story? What was Bethnal and Beck? When I got in touch with Vicky, after sort of reading her story on her webpage, um, she told me something. And when she did, I said to her, look, maybe this isn't the right time for you to come on Real Women's Stories and share your story. Maybe we should leave it a bit. But she turned around to me and said, absolutely not. This is my time. This is the right time. I want to share my story with you and with your listeners. So I'm not going to go on any further. I'm just going to give this space to Vicky to share her story. Hi, Vicky.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming to my home. I know you didn't live too far from here in Hertfordshire. I think when I reached out to you, I was looking for a lovely little retreat to go away with my husband and my dog. And I happened to stumble across your lovely retreat, Bethnal and Beck. And what I discovered was that you'd been through quite a lot of trauma and challenging times, from having left London, the city life, corporate life, and set up this beautiful retreat in Hertfordshire. And then you were diagnosed with cancer in 2019. And then after talking to you, we kind of discovered that there was a lot more to your story. I know that your story is going to help a lot of other women who have been through cancer and who are now going through divorce.
I met my soon-to-be ex-husband online via Plenty of Fish when I was living in London, 2013. I had, at the time, my son was 3.5. I was a single mum running a business in London, and he was just separated, 3 children under 8 when I met him, living in Hertfordshire. So we were doing our thing. We very quickly thought, actually, this works. We like each other. We want to have a relationship together. This is quite tricky. Me being in South London, you being in Hertfordshire, all the children, stuff. We were 38 when we met, 37, 38. I'd got to a point where I wasn't feeling as satisfied with my business. I've been running my business for 10 years at that point, and I was trying to look for an exit route. So to have a relationship, I was going to have to move to Hertfordshire. but it felt like the right thing to do. So we bought a house together, and that house was bought with the idea of me setting up something I'd wanted to do forever, which was not bed and breakfast, which everyone calls it, because I would never get up to make someone their breakfast. I'm not a morning person. I wanted to do elevated self-catering, essentially. Those first years were tough. We brought the kids together. We had his children for the majority of the time. It wasn't your classic, we had them one night a week, and every other weekend we had them a lot. They were 3 under 8. I suddenly went from being a single mum to overnight being a mum to 4. I found that very hard, I won't lie, and we bumbled along, sold our businesses, both of us, extracted ourselves from London life, and launched Bethan and Beck in 2017. I created a place that I would want to stay in, and yeah, that's what we were doing. And we got married in 2018, June 2018, and we went on our adult only honeymoon, I call it, October 2018. And when I was sitting in the business class lounge to get on our flight, I found my lump.
Wow.
So we flew off to Goa for 10 days, and I absolutely knew that this was not a normal lump. I had nightmares. I had these really surreal experiences. I kept a lot of it to myself. But what could we do? And he's very much, glasses half full, and I'm a bit glasses half empty. And I was struggling with this. Okay, we're on our honeymoon. I should be having fun, but I couldn't leave this lump alone, and I couldn't stop thinking. So the minute literally we landed Friday AM, I was in the GP by that afternoon, got referred. There was various stuff around that. I wasn't really taken seriously. So anyone listening to this, please self-advocate. Just, your body.
Sorry, can I just, what do you mean you weren't taken seriously?
Well, you hear it all the time, it's a lump. I'm sure it's nothing, I'm sure it's nothing.
This is what the GP was
Oh,
saying.
absolutely. Not the GP, the breast clinic. So I was 42, so I was young. But I've had a lot of cysts in my life, in my body, which I've had removed. So I know what a cyst feels like, and I know what this felt like.
So that's how you knew that it was a different...
Yeah, and I just knew. Long story short, there I was having a mammogram. And the whole process is really... there's loads of women, you're literally given a shopping basket, and you go and put your clothes in it, and you sit in this room, and you're all waiting for your mammograms, and you're all waiting for the same thing, and the energy and everything in that room is just awful. And I went off for my mammogram, and I had it all done, and I came out, and then they came out and they said, really, really sorry, can you come back again? Like, can you come back in? We didn't quite get it, because my lump was on where your breast meets this bit, this kind of bony bit.
Okay.
So it's quite hard for them to get the lump in. If you've ever had a mammogram, you'll know it's quite hard to get your boob in up to this point. So I did it again and what have you, and came back out, and then I went and you can get dressed, and I went and sat in the waiting room, and then they came back out and they said, really sorry, we need to do this sort of special one for you. So off I went, and now I was starting to get quite anxious by this point, and I was trying to tell myself, it's just the way that it is, and da. So I went back in and did that all again, came back out, and then they said, right, you need to come in for a biopsy. You literally need to come now for a biopsy. I was really, really upset. I just knew that what I knew was right. And of course they don't tell you anything. And then you have to wait the 2 weeks, the dreaded 2 weeks. So we busied ourselves. I genuinely tried not to think about it. I found it quite frustrating in that the very few people I did tell about what I was going through, all of them said, you'll be fine. And immediately that makes you feel ridiculous for being upset, scared, whatever. it diminishes the potential seriousness of what may lay ahead. Why do I have to be fine? Why do we have to always be fine? So I didn't tell many people, and I tried to not think about it. And the particular day I found out, we were cleaning, we were on a turnover. I knew that if I got a phone call after 2 o'clock that day, and I had my phone on me, and I got a call at 4:30, and they said, can you come in today, 6 o'clock? Well, right? They don't ask you to come in to tell you that you haven't got cancer. They send you a letter. So that was probably the longest hours, I think, for us. We got changed. We drove down. Even when I come down the A1 now, there is a point on that A1 where I remember saying, you know what's coming, don't you? You know that they're gonna tell me that this is cancer. And we just sat in silence, and we drove, and we got to the QE2, and we sat and we sat and we sat, and they were running late, and and then I was the last person to be seen. We literally, I kid you not, those like big machines that clean the floor was like going around us. It was probably about 7 o'clock by this point, and we were just sat there, and went in, and we were told. So your life just changes, and those months were really tough. So in a nutshell, I got diagnosed on the 28th of November 2018. I went in for surgery on the 20th of December, so had to work out Christmas with 4 kids under, I think they were under 10 at this point. Then I knew I was going to start chemotherapy, and then I was going to have radiotherapy. So I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I found out I had what's called triple negative breast cancer, which is it's the most aggressive type of breast cancer you can have. I mean, my tumour was 2.5 centimetres. It had grown that big in probably about 6 weeks. So the fact that I'd found it when I had is key to people checking themselves. Had I even left it 2 or 3 months later, my prognosis would have been very, very different. So I went through all of that. Chemotherapy, if anybody wants to look, I've got an Instagram account called GammyTit. I'm not active on it anymore, but that does very much show my journey. I'm very honest in what I share, and I'm very happy to talk to anybody if they've got any questions. I set up a group called True Cancer Bodies. We went on the BBC. We were in magazines. We were all over. I was trying to show the real face of cancer. I think it's very much changed now, but pre my diagnosis, they would actually use, a bit like with pregnant women, they don't use actual pregnant women. They would use actual, not people with cancer in cancer ads.
Yeah.
So that just blew my mind. Like, why the hell would you do that? So True Cancer Bodies, we started a campaign where you use people with cancer to show what it's like, how you look. We don't want to see people with wigs on. What do you look like without hair? Like, let's normalise this conversation. So again, there's a Facebook group that still goes for that. It's for anyone with cancer, any sex, any gender, anything, just any age. That's there.
And what's that one called?
True Cancer Bodies.
True Cancer Bodies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did that. I was put into a medically induced menopause, which nobody told me about. So I'd finished treatment 2019, end of 2019. We then went into COVID. So I didn't get any of my follow-up stuff. My mental health declined. Our business closed because we were obviously in hospitality. It was a really, really difficult time. And looking back on that now, that was probably some of my darkest years. But it was also difficult because I felt that what we call active treatment was over. That means chemotherapy, radiotherapy. my hair was growing back, so therefore I'm all right.
So people were looking at you at this point going, she's over the worst.
Do you know what? I love not having any hair, because people like gave you your seat and were just looked after you. Do you look ill? You are ill. But actually, I was more unwell in 2020 than I was in 2019, because in 2019 I had support, I had network, I had a hotline number to phone if I was worried about anything. I was going into the hospital every week, my bloods were being done, they were on top of everything, my friends were bringing around food parcels, there was support. It was amazing in a way, and also I had shitloads of drugs that I was on. When active treatment ends, everything ends. There's no aftercare. I mean, yes, you can go off to Maggie's or Macmillan or whatever, but they didn't suit me. They didn't. They didn't. I didn't feel that they knew what to do with me again, because I had ridiculous conversations with some people at Maggie's, because I moved my care from Stevenage to Addenbrooke's. And again, that's something else I would like to say to anybody. You must advocate for yourself. If you don't feel that your care in the trust that you are under is right, you move it, and you can move it, and they will say to you, oh well, but you can, right, and do it. Went through that, went through COVID, really bad mental health, was in a medically induced menopause, which I had no idea about, couldn't understand why. All my joints were swollen, everything hurt. I could go from 0 to actually wanting to murder somebody in 1 minute. No tolerance, couldn't handle the kids, couldn't handle mess, couldn't handle loud noises, couldn't handle strong smells, like the craziest. And I was phoning up the hotline. It's just chemo. It's just the side effects of chemotherapy. And I'd got to the point in 2022 when I seriously started to have very, very dark thoughts. And I won't go into but I had, this is not how I want to live. And importantly, this is not how I want my family to have to live with me, because I don't know who I am. I'm 25 kilos heavier than I was, and I can't lose the weight. I can't walk the dog anymore because my joints hurt so much that the next day I have to sit down and put my leg, like, this isn't my body. What is this? Nobody's listening to me. So again, I did my research and I paid privately. Again, we were still in the sort of COVID times, but again, the NHS had sort of said to anybody like me that had finished treatment, sorry, we've got this backlog, you can't come in anymore. We'll do phone consultations. So I just paid privately through a friend of a friend who's a GP, and she prescribed me HRT. Now, HRT and breast cancer, hugely controversial. The argument is there's a increased risk of up to 10% of your cancer coming back. And my argument was, I won't have a 10% risk because I won't be here if you don't give it to me.
Yeah.
Right? So we can argue the 10%, but it's irrelevant, because if I don't get this and I don't do something, I will either be getting a divorce, ha ha ha, or they'll be, at my funeral. So we need to sort this out. So Sally, who is an amazing private GP, she prescribed me. I was paying a fortune for it, but it saved me.
So the HRT, and I'm only going to touch upon this because I know that I've had conversations myself, because I'm on HRT and I've had to take it, and I'm a completely different person. I'm actually a better person than I was beforehand. Right. And I think I'd always suffered with my hormones and never even realised, right? So I'm a huge advocate if somebody needs HRT, but I've got patches. Is that what is that because they're more bioidentical?
No, I don't know. I started on gel because I had to start the lowest of the low, which was kind of pointless, to be honest. I mean, it was probably like, but we had to start really, really small and build it and build it and build it to, which was, it was protracted for a year. But I started on gel and I'm on ultragestrone, and now I'm on 2 tablets every day, and I'm on patches. After 18 months, I found my level, so that's good.
And does
Now
that
I'm on
level fluctuate? Because mine does.
it, not at the moment, no, but I did find before I got to where I am now, this is the one I've been on the longest that hasn't. But I know that if that changes, I'll go back.
Yes.
And I understand that now.
Yeah.
Because like the contraceptive pill, it's completely different, but they try and use it as a similar thing. You took the contraceptive pill and that was it. You just took a pill, and that. But yeah, this is adjustable.
But don't you find then that, and if I relate it to, because you said it was like the treatment you were having with cancer was almost like your chemo was a one size fits all, but like our bodies, like with hormones, it's not a one size fits all, because everybody is different.
Absolutely.
And we are susceptible to different things. Our organs work differently, and that's kind of also the message that you were saying. Like HRT, like hormones, there's not a one size fits all with having treatment for cancer.
So I've put myself back together. So I started to do that with HRT because HRT stopped my joints hurting, which meant I could walk. Then I could start getting my mental health back. Then I could start looking to lose weight. And you know, you've got to. I felt like I was like literally trying to keep my head above water before I found HRT. Anything I grabbed onto would just fail, and it became a real mental battle just to get out of bed every day. I became a real recluse. I felt like I was agoraphobic. I couldn't have a sense. I mean, I couldn't have done this because I couldn't keep my concentration for more than forgetting words, forgetting what I was saying. I couldn't remember people's names.
And you think that was because of the early menopause?
Absolutely. Right, okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
Because people talk about, and I know that I went through that, but obviously I'm just thinking that was nothing to do with the treatment that you had. That was all to do with your early menopause. Absolutely. And it was even enhanced and speeded up because of that.
It was induced. If anybody who's been induced in childbirth, you know, 0 to 100, right? Yeah. Yes. So it's that your body hasn't got time to prepare. So that's HRT, and that's that. So then I got onto HRT. Things started to get better. Started to exercise. But then 2023 was when the real crack sadly started showing in my marriage, which I completely took the blame for because I'd been ill. Now, I don't know if I hadn't have had cancer and I'd gone through that kind of menopause, whether I'd still be married. I don't know. Let's not, you know, the elephant in the room when you have cancer is you don't have sex. You dry up. The last thing you want to do is feel, if you lose your hair, and God, if I had a pound for every time someone said to me, oh, but you look great without hair. And if anybody listening to this, go onto my Gammy Tip page, you'll see what I look like without hair. Yeah, maybe I did wrong, but that doesn't mean I didn't. You have ulcers in your mouth, ulcers in your vagina. You are so constipated that you feel like you're carrying a 6-month-old baby. Everything, you lose all your hair, but not in an attractive, oh, I've waxed myself way. Okay? This is not, your body feels toxic and you don't know who you are. And in my case, I just had a lumpectomy. You've got women that have had their breasts removed. I mean, that alone, it's such a head fuck, okay? And you are there, and maybe you've got a husband that's saying to you, I still love you, you're beautiful. I had a husband that said to me, I still love you. But he was never great with the compliments, which was always a thing with us. But then, you know, that basically became, after cancer, he didn't try, during cancer, he didn't was very respectful of my body, and I was grateful because we would have conversations with other women where they're like, oh my God, I feel so guilty. My husband, is moaning because we're not having sex, or he's saying this because I won't do that. And, you'd think, God, it's the last thing you want to do. Yeah. I just think, oh, thank God for that. I'm really... But then you go through the transition after, like I said, your hair grows back. Everyone thinks you're all right because your hair's growing back and you've stopped active treatment. But actually, for a lot of us, you're having massive drug withdrawal. You're on steroids when you go through chemotherapy, and that's so that your immune system is suppressed so that your body can absorb chemotherapy more. Okay. So you've got the side effects of steroids, and they obviously affect your libido and all sorts of things. Your body has just gone through trauma, so you're also trying to put that back together, and then you're supposed to perform. And a lot of my friends did then kind of go, okay, here you go. I was like, okay, but then it became the elephant in the room. So then I started, like, you're not attracted to me, because obviously I was still, I was 25 kilos bigger. Again, everyone, yes, but it doesn't matter because of what you know. It does matter. It matters to me. I don't want to be 15 stone and buying, say, size 16, 18 clothes. I don't want that. I want Vicky back. I'm grieving Vicky. Some people, fine, they don't care. Great. But do not paint everyone with the same bloody brush. If somebody is saying they feel a certain way, allow them to feel a certain way. If they're not complaining that they've put on weight, great. But if they are, don't platitudes and diminish their feelings, because I was angry. I was so angry for 2 years that I had cancer and that I'd gone through this, and that it had happened 3 months into my marriage. Still you can see that anger is still there, because it's unfair. I've not had the easiest life. I met somebody I really loved, and then fucking boom, another life delivery. So that was so much anger.
Do you want a minute?
No. So, and then so 2023, I was like, right, okay. There are cracks here in this relationship. He's pulled away. I'm not quite feeling myself, so I took myself off to therapy again. I've done therapy a lot in my life. Took myself back to therapy, stuck myself back on antidepressants, went back to what I know helps me, which is hot yoga, long dog walks, really eating well. And then I needed to reverse. I was really heading fast towards type 2 diabetes. And my HbA1c levels were really high, and of course that they just said, well, we'll just give you a pill. So I don't want a pill. So I went on the Michael Mosley 800 diet. I did that. I lost 20 kilos.
Amazing.
I got fit. I felt good in my body. So our wedding anniversary is in June, and last June we went away. I think if I look upon it now, I knew that things weren't right. I was unhappy, he was unhappy. Neither of us were really sure how to go about fixing it. I was doing all the things that I thought should work. He wasn't really reacting to those things. We still weren't having sex. We still weren't really communicating. We were arguing a lot. We were running a business together, which we haven't even touched yet, but we ran the business together. And that's the only thing that we could talk about. And so there was quite a big blow up in June last year. And before that blow up, I'd actually said to him, I want to start marriage counselling. I think we're beyond us trying to figure this out. So big bust up, literally the next day we had already booked marriage counselling, and he sat and he said, in the marriage counselling, which is the first day, because I'm not in love with you anymore, and I'm not attracted to you anymore. And my world just fell apart. It was horrendous. And I came away from that, and we carried on, and we went on our wedding went away for our wedding anniversary, and I bought all this sexy underwear and was trying to, bought him a wedding anniversary card and wrote this big thing in it and made this. It was so forced, and I was so sad, and I had to go away for part that day and just sit and sob, because I thought to myself, and I took a photo that day, and I use it now as my profile picture, because I took a photo and I thought to myself, I want to look at this photo in a year's time and wonder if we're still together. And I was looking, it was the best it was the smallest I'd been, it was the fittest I'd been. And yeah, it was the loneliest I'd been. And I felt like, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what to do. And things in the family were really starting to unravel as well. And so we limped through the summer. I made a decision, we both made a decision in August that I would move out with my son, to give us some space. Everyone asked, well, why did you move out? Well, because I wanted to. And I have the right to do this whole thing where the woman stays. Now, I didn't want to stay in the house. Best thing I ever did, because it gave me headspace. I was really not in a good place mentally, and my son wasn't either. So that was very important for me that I did that. But I thought that absence would make the heart grow fonder, and it didn't. So
For either of you, or
for me, absolutely. I was not going to let this marriage fail, whatever it took. It was my second marriage, and I was not going to make it. I was not going to. I'd done a lot. I'd moved my life from London. We had a business together. I helped raise his 3 children for nearly 12 years. We were this sort of Instagram couple, and it says that's so ridiculous to say it, but our business is very much, our identity of being a couple is very much part of our business. Like, how do I extrapolate that? What that's not gonna, and we can get through this, and I can do this, and this is all fine. And in a nutshell, we went away for my birthday in January, and we had an interesting few days away. There were some really lovely moments, and there were some really low moments. And I dropped him home from the airport on the Friday night, and I didn't hear from him until the Tuesday. And I said to him, okay, we need to have a conversation, and I need you to decide what you're doing. And he came round and said, it's over. And then I think I spoke to you quite shortly after that.
That's why, because I remember I called you and you said to me, look, I've got something to tell you. And I was, and I said, are you sure you want to come on the podcast and talk? And you went, yes, I do, because I think you have a very big quest in terms of people being vulnerable.
We were going to meet, weren't we, a few weeks ago, month ago?
Something came
and
up
I went off to do something which will change my life. So I'm really glad I went. So I've signed up to be a life coach. So one of the things that when I've touched on, I struggled to find decent support and help when I was going through life after cancer. So I'd wanted to train to be a counsellor. I'm 50 in January. I want to spend my next stage of my life using my lived experience to help other women and empower other women. What will happen with Bethlehem and Beck? It still happens. We still co-run it, which is interesting. But we're doing it, and all power to us for that. And now I'm going to train not to be a counsellor, but to be a life coach, which is what I went on a course to do the 2 days we were originally going to meet. I want to specialise in cancer, women cancer, but I also really want to specialise as well in sexual health around cancer and the elephant in the room. I was so so sad from January to beginning of May this year. Worse than when I had a cancer diagnosis. Worse. It's the worst thing I've been through. I have never cried so much. I have never felt so low and so afraid. And I had to respect things and boundaries and all sorts of, because I've not just lost my husband, I've lost my family home, not technically, but metaphorically, a family unit, my business. I'm not there every day. I don't see it. My whole life has changed. And I really grieved that, and I needed to grieve that. But now I'm able to look forward. I'm able to look in the future. I'm excited. I've been doing some stuff that I've wanted to do for years, and I can now do because I'm not part of that thing. And that's all good. And that's all good. But one of the biggest things that's helped me is I never had my own Instagram account other than Gammy Tit, which I stopped after cancer because I couldn't be near cancer. So I started an Instagram account called Cancer Then Divorce, and I started to share what was going on and what I was going through, and the tears and the joy and the sadness and the light bulb moments and the light bulb moment. And then, you come home and you open an email to something, and then you're in tears and you're floored. And it's being received pretty well. And it helps me share. Helped me share when I was going through cancer. I know for a fact I saved at least 20 women's lives because they checked themselves. I used to do lives, breast checking. And they checked themselves, found lumps, got treatment. Wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have done it without following me. Wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have thought to do it. So I still do that. I'm talking about cancer again. I'm comfortable talking about it. Yes, of course I well up. And like you immediately went, oh, do you want to stop? And I said, no. Yeah. I think we're all so uncomfortable when people get emotional. And and it's like, I'm very much somebody, I'd like to think that I allow like if somebody's angry, I allow them to be angry. If someone's sad, I allow them to be sad. If they're happy, I allow them to be happy. Emotions are emotions, and we should allow them all.
Thank you for, I think this is probably the first time I've said absolutely nothing. Honestly, I've said literally nothing because I wanted to give you the space to talk and so beautifully and so openly. Um, I'm I'm not lost for words. I'm just pleased that you've shared your story. And I don't think you realize this from someone listening to your story and the type of person you are. Do you realize how giving you are, first of all, and how much work that you try to put into your marriage, to your relationship, to everything that you went through? And I don't know if people tell you that much, but from listening to you, Vicky, I you just throw yourself into everything that you do, and it's so commendable, and I just want to acknowledge you for that, because as a coach myself, right, we sometimes have to listen to other people. And I know you're going to go through your coaching journey, which will change your life because it's changed my life and who I am. You have the most amazing strength, tenacity, caring, beautiful nature about you, and to want to come here and share what you've been through to help other people. And this is to help other people so people don't feel they're alone. I just want to say, first of all, thank you. And please listen to my words, because sometimes when we're that strong, we don't hear what other people are saying.
I'm learning to hear what other people are saying.
I want you to remember this,
Yeah.
because I wanted to give you that space, and I didn't want to interrupt you at all,
No.
because your story has touched me hugely, hugely. So thank you. You know, I know other people that have been through cancer that have just come out of the other side. And I think that there are many women that are going through this, and your voice on this is going to help them. So thank you. I really do appreciate it. And give me a hug now. We can hug. Oh, thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. When I first got in touch with Vicky, because I was looking for a lovely retreat, somewhere to go with my husband, my dog, and have a nice time. And I saw, Vicky's story on her website. And Real Women's Stories is about sharing stories, inspirational stories. And when I got in touch with Vicky, and there seemed to be some other challenges that she was going through, I wasn't sure how this interview was going to go. And I had sort of suggested to Vicky that did she not, maybe this isn't the right time for her. Maybe we'll pick this up, when she's in a better place. And Vicky was quite adamant, and she sort of said, no, no, it's fine. I want to do this interview. And after having spoken to Vicky and having this just incredible conversation, it's just completely made me realize exactly why Vicky wanted to come in and talk about her story. Because although her challenges, have been quite traumatic, she is one of the most incredible, beautiful women that I have probably interviewed, in terms of the strength that she has, the tenacity she has. Just, I thought I was the kind of person that always strive to help other people, but she really just threw everything into her relationship, her marriage, her family, even her treatment, even trying to navigate that and advocate for herself. So this interview for me is probably one of the most powerful interviews. And I actually not even going to call it an interview. It's a conversation that has taken place on Real Women's Stories. Coaching, as I just, I always express, has changed my life. When I went on my own coaching journey to become a coach, my life changed. And my coach has been imperative in my journey, creating this podcast, creating the next chapter of my life, and me evolving in my midlife. And I, it's my quest to empower more women, to help more women. And for anybody listening to this podcast, if you would like to work with me, if you would like to share in my journey and have your own journey, it would be my absolute pleasure. And I know that I have a couple of slots available. So if this is something that you really want to know about, and if you're not sure about it, let's have a conversation. Coaching starts with a conversation. And if you are interested in having a conversation with me, then you can get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me through this podcast. The email address is TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. That's TheRealStoriesPodcast@gmail.com. Honestly, if you're just unsure and you just want to have a conversation, I love conversations. So let's go on one together and drop me an email. And if you want to keep listening to my podcasts, then remember to hit the follow button, and then you will hear me for my next episode of Real Women's Stories.